What if your next client wasn't hesitating because of your price, but because you aren't owning your value? Today's guest, Gwen Tinsley, is a powerhouse sales coach for service-based female entrepreneurs. And she's here to help you stop discounting yourself, overstuffing your offers, or feeling like you have to convince someone to buy. After 20 years in business and sales and leaving a successful corporate career to build her own company, Gwen now teaches women how to sell with confidence, clarity, and authenticity. Her superpower? Helping you create repeatable, aligned sales systems that turn DMs, discovery calls, and email conversations into excited yeses without second-guessing your price or your worth of your offer. In this episode, we talk about why so many female founders struggle to own their value, the real reason we overcomplicate our offers, how to shift your mindset from icky to empowered when it comes to sales, Gwen's step-by-step process for a confident, high-converting sales conversation, and how to communicate like a CEO, not a discount brand. If you've ever found yourself throwing in bonuses, lowering your price, or feeling unsure in a sales conversation, don't worry, I have too, then this conversation is the one you need. Let's dive in.
Before we begin, I want to make sure that you have the Unleashing You retreat on your radar, because just the fact that you're tuning into this podcast means the Unleashing You retreat is right up your alley. The reason I created the Unleashing You retreat is because as women, we tend to look to everyone else for the answers. We somehow think that everyone else knows better than we do, when in reality, tapping into your own intuition is actually the key to living a happy and fulfilled life. And that's how I've created the career and life I have now, and what we'll teach you how to do during this retreat. An inner shift like this will leave you with tools that you'll use for the rest of your life. This retreat is so much more than a girls' trip. This is a transformation. If I've piqued your interest, I want to personally invite you to join us in Steamboat Springs, Colorado on September 19th through the 22nd. During our time together, we will go through coaching workshops and other deep personal development activities that will uncover aspects of yourself you never even knew. Work like this would take months or years to do on your own, and we're going to get you there in just a few short days. Not to mention, we'll be staying in a gorgeous mountain home, complete with a private chef, so you don't have to lift a finger. If you are ready for a pampering getaway where you can recharge your batteries and feed your soul, send me a message on Instagram or visit acrprofessionalcoaching.com to learn more and reserve your spot. Spots are very limited, so do not wait. And I'll see you in the mountains. Now, let's get on to today's show. Welcome to Unleashing You. This podcast is your permission slip to create success your way. I'm your host, Amanda Riffey, a certified success coach and female business leader who has climbed her way up the corporate ladder. I've been through burnout and back and found the tools to bring fun and enjoyment to my career while creating powerful results and leading in a way that feels authentic to me. This show brings you conversations with women just like you who have created massive success for themselves and are doing it in their own way. We'll hear about their personal journeys of growing their career while still prioritizing the things they love most. If you are ready to be challenged and encouraged to reach your next level, then buckle up, sister, because the road to dreamy success begins here. Let's dive in.
Gwen, oh my gosh, you are here on Unleashing You. I'm so excited. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be with you today. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I love this topic. I'm really pumped to jump into this topic with you because not only have I lived this myself, but a lot of people that I work with, a lot of the clients I work with, a lot of even colleagues that I have in the entrepreneurial space, like we need help with sales, and especially when it comes to getting out of our own way when it
Yes.
comes to sales. And so I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with you today. So, why don't we start out with just a little bit about your story? So, you went from corporate to entrepreneur. Like, tell us how this all went down.
Yeah. So I spent, like 25-ish years doing what thought I was supposed to do, right? Like I went to school, I went to college, I got into the real world, working for somebody else, right? And I really never felt like I found it. Here I was, I have arrived. And I kept finding myself though in client facing roles, right? Like people would put me in front of other people because they would tell me that I was charismatic and good at that. And I'm like, that's great. But also, what does that mean from like a career perspective? And where I found myself exposed to a lot of those like assessments that you can take. So they're escaping me right now. Unfortunately, for the life of me, I'm like, great, we're recording and it's escaping me. But
It's all good.
no, Myers-Briggs,
Yeah,
right?
there's
Like,
so many of them.
DISC, they're
Yes.
coming to me now.
Yes.
There's Myers-Briggs with all those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it would always put me in a sales role. And I was like, absolutely not. No way, no way. Because my dad was sitting on my shoulder, right, saying, that's the hardest you'll ever work. It's the grimiest job. You can never take a break. The minute that you take a break, sales will dip, right? Just very sales, and that scope was a old white man's job, at a used car salesman. Like that was the vibe. And I was like, no, that's not who I am. I don't want to be that, right? But I kept finding myself in like supportive sales roles where you didn't get paid nearly as much as the salespeople did. So I had gotten pregnant and I felt really out of control. I don't know any mamas out there that have ever felt like my life is over. I don't know who I am. I don't, and my transition into momhood was not a great one. I had postpartum. I'm an only child. I didn't grow up babysitting. Like kids were just a foreign thing to me, right? And so I hit the panic button, like just straight up hit the panic button. And so what does everybody do when they hit the panic button? Well, they uproot their whole family and they go and they move right next door to mom and dad. No, you guys don't all do that? Okay, well, I did. I did. Because I thought, oh my God, mom and dad are going to be my saving grace. They're going to help me take care of this baby because I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God, all the things. And like I said, it was a hard transition. And so I really needed an outlet. I needed something other than being a mom. Because I just, at that point, honestly, girlfriends didn't want to be a mom. I was very just, everything around it. In fact, I remember my husband giving me a necklace and it said mom. And I'm like, why would you give me this awful thing? Like, who would want to wear a necklace that says mom on it,
Yeah.
Anyway, it was like very bad postpartum. So I found myself in Mary Kay and I had skyrocketed. I mean, I earned free cars. I debuted as the number 3 director in the nation very quickly. And that's when I realized that I was selling, but I wasn't. I was honestly just genuinely and authentically sharing what I was passionate about at that time in my life with other women. And they caught the bug and could feel my energy and they wanted what I had. And that is selling. And so I'm like, okay, but in corporate, you're told, don't bring feelings into this. Be somebody else. I feel like you're always being watched over. God forbid you send an email that had a grammatical error in it and it made you look bad. I mean, just the strings that were attached to just trying to do your job, which was to grow the pockets of somebody else. It just all kind of like came together for me. So at that time, I actually stepped back into corporate. I don't know that I'd call it corporate because anyway, I worked with a small business and mom and pop actually, and I helped them scale and grow their business from I was one of 7 employees. When I left there, I think there were over 65 employees and we were close to a $10 million company when I left. And I was their VP of sales and marketing. So I met this wonderful, fabulous human being, Victoria Marculier. She's owner of Brainwell Designs. She had, and I had just this connection. She spun off, started her own company. And this is what I'll tell you, girlfriends, is that your story is attached to somebody else's and somebody else's story is attached to yours. And so you have to keep going. You just have to keep going. And had she not said yes to her dreams and her business, I wouldn't be where I am today. But a couple years later, she called me and said, I need you. And I want to make you the official sales coach of the brand new business school. And I'm like, yeah, sure. She's like, no, I don't think you know what I'm asking you to do. Like, you need to start your own business because women are going to want to work with you. And I'm like, what? And here I am today. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Incredible. And isn't that number one? I just want to recognize, like, thank you for being so open and vulnerable about your postpartum. I think that's
yeah,
something that so many people suffer in silence. And we think that, it's just going to be fantastic and the most magical feeling right out of the gate. And so I'm so glad to see you on the other side of that as the most incredible mom. But I want to start with that. The other thing that came up when you were talking was, just number one, this feeling around selling, but also having that reflected back to you. And I think so often we don't see ourselves through the same lens that other people see us through. What was in your superpower just felt kind of simple and easy to you, that to somebody else was like, no, yeah, you're going to need to start your own business. People are going to want to work with you. And how amazing to have those incredible humans around you to be able to reflect that back to you when you just can't see it yourself at sometimes. So speaking of reflecting things back, one of the biggest things that I know gets in our way, we'll say, especially as female entrepreneurs, but I can see this even as women in corporate as well, they're the mindset blocks around selling in general. So whether it's discounting, whether it's being like, ooh, that's too much, or I'm greedy to want more, or whatever the thing might be, what are some of the most common sales mindset blocks that you come across?
Ooh, okay. All right. So many things. And so first and foremost, I want to tell you that we sell ourselves every single day, almost every minute of every single day. And so I want to start there to say, like, by the way, my son he'll be 12 in May, which I'm just like having such a hard time with that. But we sell ourselves to our children. We sell ourselves to our husbands, right? Like tonight, we're getting ready to go to his baseball game. And I'm like already like talking to my husband about what I don't want to do for dinner and what I do want to do for dinner. Like that's a sales conversation, right? That we take for granted that happens every single day. And I started with my son because I think about like just, okay, how I show up to him in the morning is going to be how he starts off his day in the morning. And that is a form of selling too, right? It's like just how we show up to the world. But I think honestly, we put titles on things. We compartmentalize things, and then all of a sudden we put this unnecessary pressure on ourselves when it comes to showing up for those things. So in corporate, like one of the most disheartening things that would just break my heart is women not advocating for themselves, right? Listen, if my face doesn't say it, my mouth does, is what I always say, right? And typically my mouth will say it before my face, but then if my mouth can't, then just trust the face. And so I was on the executive team in this company that I was just referencing, and Victoria was too at some point. But anyway, we would get into these executive meetings and I would be having these like offline conversations with the people on the team that was primarily, actually at one point, it was all females and only the one CEO was the male. And we would all be on the same page about what our frustrations were and where we thought we needed to go, right? But then we would get into like a formalized setting and the conversation would come up and it would be crickets. And I'd be like, okay, really? It got to the point where it was like, we know, Gwen, go ahead. What are you going to say? Because I felt like I needed to be the voice, right? Because again, everybody was so afraid of the repercussions, the consequences of saying something that somebody doesn't like. And what I'll just say to you is that is like the most dysfunctional team that you can have. Like, I never want to be a yes person. When I become a yes person, we have a problem, okay? Because that's not why I was put on this earth to do. And if people can't see your intentions as pure as they are, and you feel like you're going to get punished or penalized, then I'm just going to tell you now, here's your sign. You're not in the right place. You're not valued, at the way that you should be valued. And so if you don't feel like you have that freedom to speak openly and honestly, then you need to go somewhere else because I promise you somebody will value that. So that's my little spiel on corporate. And that's ultimately what also led me into saying yes to starting my own business because I felt like my voice was no longer valued, right? So for whatever reason, and that's okay, time to move on. But then what I have really found is the mindset piece that is just really daunting to me. And in fact, I started a whole other podcast called Built from the Ground Up Show to actually talk about this in particular, is women's inability, or I won't say inability, but the imposter syndrome, right? Like, so going back to corporate, like we know our value and our worth based off of the salary and the titles that we're given. We know our value and our worth based with our friends and our, families based off of the feedback that they give us, right? But then all of a sudden it's like we want to go and we want to start a business. And what happens? Well, all of a sudden we're not qualified enough. We don't know enough. What if I mess it up? We take our amazing abilities and we shrink them, right? Because we've been told just to go sit down and shut up half of our life, right? And so then that translates into we're not packaging our offers appropriately. We are discounting the crap out of things when we don't ever need to be. Or we do the other thing, we front load it, right? And we give away the world. And then like just hoping and praying, please say yes, please. I want to make this offer so enticing that they can't say no to it at this incredible price point. And then you get a dopamine hit. Yeah, I got my first win, but then you're exhausted because you're servicing these clients at an unscalable level. And you also don't feel like the money is in alignment in exchange for the value at some point. But then you're stuck and you don't know how to do. Anyway, it's this vicious cycle that I have now become. I didn't realize that this would be a mission of mine, but it has become a mission of mine to help women stay in business by understanding their sales conversations and how they impact everything.
Oh, yes. Okay. And I know that, as when I was starting out, and, I still have to check myself on this sometimes too, every time I'm creating something new. Like, okay, is that a limiting belief in there? Or is that, what is that sneaking in? I want to dive into the discounting a little bit more because I know this was something that I did for sure. I know this is something that other women do as well. And hoping we can get a little tactical here too. I'll give you an example. Maybe we could even use my own old example too.
Yeah,
yes, right? Okay, so I would work myself up. I'd be like, okay, yep, all right, I'm feel good about this price. I'm going to do this price. Okay, I can do this. And then when it would come time to talk to people about it, I did not speak the price confidently. And a lot of the time, I would offer them a discount before they would even before they would even ask, what's the most simple. People are never going to ask before they would even react, before anything, because I would be so in my head about like, okay, I set the price, but then in reality, nobody ever paid that price because I always gave them a discount. So talk to me. I don't do this anymore, but talk to me about that person. What would you tell them?
Okay. Well, so many things. I want to tell you that the salesperson does that herself too sometimes. Okay.
Right?
So anybody that says they have it all figured out, they don't. So I just want to humanize that and tell you that is an absolutely normal thing. And I just recently found myself in a kind of similar situation, and I had a mentor, and thank God, she said something and I was like, oh yeah, like, Gwen, what are you doing? You know better, right?
Yes.
So it's normal and natural, but that's why it's so important, I think, to have an accountability and a business coach, right? To help you see those blind spots and to help you understand what's actually happening here. Because I think it's very dangerous to be in that space too, because then I think that we knee-jerk reaction things and we, end up creating all the time to find that offer that's going to explode when really we probably needed to dial in our sales conversations, right? So I'm going to ask you a question in return then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, such a good coach. Ask more questions.
How would you say that you were showing value in your sales conversations of what it is that you do?
So yeah, at the time, I know I was attaching myself a lot to the results that they were going to get. Like I'd be really focused on like making sure there was enough value in there that they would see this big transformation, all of that. I know for sure I was really attaching myself to their results, taking that fully on my responsibility. And I think the other thing that was also showing up for me was even though I quote unquote felt grounded in that price, I actually really didn't because I was automatically thinking in my head, like, ooh, this is probably out of their price range. Oh, this is probably outside their budget. Ooh, they're going to think this is too much for the value that they get. So all of those things that you were talking about earlier were like subconsciously replaying in my head.
So what I got out of that is that you were taking on their emotions and feelings and their responsibility for the things that they needed to be responsible for, right?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And that's exhausting. That is so exhausting, right? Okay. Were you doing sales calls?
Yes.
What kind? Were they over the phone? Zoom?
Yeah. So I have to put myself back in those times. So
I know.
I know. I'm like thinking back. This is so hard. Yeah. So I was doing sales calls and or like voice note back and forth kind of conversations. And I know for sure that I really felt like I had to like oversell it. Like I would ask a lot of really good questions, but then by the time it got to the price, I just really felt like, okay, now I need to like make sure there's 12,000 bullet points of all the things that they're going to get and all of this for that value.
Did you have a sales presentation?
No.
So do you have one now?
No, actually I don't use like a slide deck. I do have kind of a general flow that I follow in conversations, but it just feels so much more natural to me now than it did then. But yeah, I didn't have like a formal sales presentation.
So one of the biggest things two things, but I'll tell you the sales presentation has been one of the biggest reasons why people say that other people buy. So actually, like Victoria Mercouri, I was telling you, she was on a podcast and she sent it to me and the woman said, I just want to talk about your sales process because it is the reason that I purchased from you. And she's like, because I had interviewed so many other people in that genre. And she's like, and you were the only one that actually walked me through a presentation so that I could visually and audibly hear. Because we have, as humans, like, and especially if what you're offering is complex or abstract, right? Like you can't really sink your teeth into it. We have to make sure that we realize that people's buying behaviors, one, there's a lot of psychology around that goes into this, right? But we have senses. We all have senses, right? And the number one thing that is going to drive someone to buy is emotion. And so how do you tap into someone's emotion? Well, audibly, but then also visually is a really important piece of that. So one of the things that I always say, you have to stay in control of the conversation. So the reason that you feel, or most people feel like they have to discount is because they were never in control of that conversation from the minute that somebody reached out to them. And so it starts from, hey, like when someone reaches out to you in an email, what is your response? Are you actually like answering their question? Like, so if someone were to say, hey, I saw your offering on your line, can you clarify the pricing? Are you typing sure and clarifying the pricing without knowing anything about their pain point or anything about what it is that they're actually needing, right? So that's a big part of that too, is like helping to transition from DMs and emails into letting them know that you have a process, even in your sales, right? And it starts with, I'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer your questions. But the first thing is like, let's get a schedule. Let's get a consult call scheduled or discovery call or coffee chat or whatever it is that you're calling it, right? But then even that process, even that piece has a process. It has a sales flow to it, right? And so what I'll say is if you feel like you are getting on these calls and you're being interviewed, right? Versus you interviewing them, well then girlfriends, like we need to change that up. That's not what that should feel like. That is not what that should be like. Yep. I'll tell you also from a psychology perspective, in those conversations, if your prospect is the first one to have to say something like, okay, so let me learn more about this. Like if you get on and you're being all nice and you're like, how was your day? And then they're like, okay, so I have some questions. You've lost control, right? Like you need to have an agenda. you need to start those. There's a time and place for niceties, don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
But you need to start those calls with the, hey, so today, and setting expectations too, right? From the get-go. So today, what I want to do is I want to learn more about you and your business. I have some questions. And then from there, if we decide this is something that would be a good fit for you, I'd like to invite you to learn more about how and what working with me would be and feel like in a presentation. Would that be okay?
Yeah. Ooh, I love that so much. And that reminds me too of back in my corporate days, which is so fun, like all the things that we can bring from those skills. I went through a training called Sandler training, which is a sales training as well. And that is one of the things that they start with, and they call it the upfront contract. And really setting the stage of like, okay, here's what I'd like to talk about. Did you have things that you wanted to chat about? Okay. And then at the end of this conversation, if we both agree, then I'd like to invite you to learn more or whatever, or,
Right.
whatever the thing is. And what I love about that approach is it really, number one, puts their guard down of like, oh my gosh, okay. So like, I know I'm about to be sold to, like, when's she just going to like pull the punch and, all that kind of thing. But it really makes it more like, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. And yeah, I really want to know more about you from a very genuine
Yes.
place, because I can't make any kind of recommendations if I don't know about you. So
Yes.
leading with those questions, and then also being like, at the end, it's got to be a hell yes from you. It's got to be a hell yes from me. And if it is, then we'll talk about next steps. So I really do love that approach to kicking off a sales call.
Well, and so then that bleeds into going back to like the discounting piece of it, because I know that's what you led with. So then, the presentation is a really critical piece too, because again, confident women want to work with other confident women, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to give our money to somebody that we're like, did they really know what they're doing? Or I have questions. And so the two things that are going to kill a sale is uncertainty and lack of clarity. Okay. So anytime that you get an objection, it is always because they are unclear on something or they aren't certain on something, right? And those are kind of two words that mean the same, but really don't. So for instance, maybe they are unclear on how your process is going to fit into their lifestyle. Or maybe they're uncertain that this is the solution for them based off of their objectives and outcomes that they want to have. But anytime that you get any kind of objection, it's just them saying, yeah, I don't know. There's some like fear of something or uncertainty or not being clear on something. And so that sales presentation is the golden nugget to help you tell your story, right? So it's almost like, hey, we have our discovery call, and the discovery call is all about you, all about you, Amanda, right? So I want to learn about you. Okay, great. Because you have some idea of what it is that I do because we're on this call, right?
Right.
But I don't have any idea of what you do, right? And so now, it's almost like flipping a switch, right? So now it's like, all right, we're going to switch gears, and I need you to get a different headspace because I'm going to share with you about me. And I'm going to share with you what working with me looks like to get the results that you want. But it's this like, introduction. I get to tell my story. I get to tell, build credibility and authority and confidence, walking them through a very structured conversation, right? So then at the end, there is no question of value. The price is the price, and we are not discounting. Hell no, we are not discounting, because also let me tell you what discounting really says about you. And this is the thing that gets me so much. Discounting says that I don't value myself, so why should you? Discounting says you are going to be a problem. Everybody that I've ever given a discount to are the problem ones. They wear you out. They know they can push you around. They want way more than what they bargained for, right? They're very demanding. And it's because you didn't set that expectation to begin with. And in fact, you said, I'm the person that you can do that with.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So many good things in what you just said. I think the biggest thing that I heard was also authority. So when you lead with that confidence and I think some people have, weird things around the word control, but it's you're the authority in that conversation. It does not mean you're, dictating every single thing about that conversation. It can still flow and feel very genuine and very authentic. But it is clear that you are the one leading the conversation.
Yes.
You are leading that call. And then to your point, it just will naturally transition into, okay, if this sounds, I'd love to, as you said, like I've learned so much about you, love to share a little bit more about me and how we could work together. And then to your point, the price is the price. And I think it's also detaching from whether or not that person says yes or no. And when you can detach yourself from that, because maybe they're not going to be the right person. And to your point, you don't want to call in the people that aren't aligned for you, because that is not probably why you got into business to begin with. And and I think when you can have that really genuine conversation that you are leading, the price is going to speak for itself. And I love that you said when you're discounting, it truly does give off the vibe of like, okay, but I know this actually isn't worth the price that I have.
Yeah.
This offer isn't worth what I said it was worth.
Yeah, and that just sets like a whole buying pattern from your clients, right? That you just it's hard to get out of that cycle. I want to go back and speak on one thing about like the control, because I feel you on that, right? Like I think control and sales is exactly like the two combination words that make it feel really icky, right? And so again, my whole mission is to help female entrepreneurs have sales conversations that light souls on fire and that add value to people's lives along the way. So even getting on these discovery calls or coffee chats, whatever we're calling them, right? And then you determine that, you know what, like we probably aren't a good fit. My advice is like, well, what can you give them to make them feel like their time was well spent with you? Because even though they might not be a good fit right now, right? You never know who they might talk to that would say, I had this really great experience with Gwen. And although it didn't work out for me, I think it could be a good fit for you. Or maybe 6 months down the road, right? They remember you. And so things like, just to kind of give you an example to like, make that tangible. So a lot of times what I'll do is like, there's 3 things that I look for in that conversation: fit, cause, and energy. So fit is like, are they a good fit for me overall? Do they fit those requirements? Cause is like, what's actually causing them to want to change or want to invest their money, because they've gone this long doing what they're doing, so something has shifted. Like, let's find out what that is, because that's ultimately probably going to be where the emotion is. And then the energy is more not like, well, I'm so excited energy is more like, are you shopping, or do you have energy that you're looking to solve this problem now, right? Because I don't want to waste my time and their time really with someone that's just shopping and getting information, right? Like nobody has time to be that hotline. And I think that we give away too much of our services for free on these consult calls, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's again, if it's a conversation that is systematic, right? And then that doesn't happen, right? But we find that person that maybe like is shopping and they're not ready to necessarily buy right now. Well, then I think it's quite all right to say, I would be more than happy to share with you more of what working with me would look like as you get closer to that time point. But I tell you what, here's a really great resource, right? It could be a podcast. It could be a specific episode of your podcast, if you do that was relatable to your conversation. It could be a blog. It could be an introduction to somebody else that they may, align with, right? But that's my cardinal rule, is like, I want people to feel like their time with me was valuable.
I love that so much. And I love that we just kind of brought this full circle to like the whole reason we got into business was to make an impact and to improve the lives of others, whether it's through a product, a service, whatever it is. And what I hear you saying is that, number one, sales can feel really good. Sales can feel easy, and you're still staying true to yourself and making an impact. Because honestly, you started a business. You didn't start a nonprofit or a charitable organization. While those are amazing, we're talking about for-profit businesses. And so you can't continue to make that impact if you are not bringing in the dollars to support it. So it all really comes full circle. And I know this is a topic we could talk about for so much longer, for sure. But I think you've dropped so much wisdom and things for people to be able to tweak and change. If they are looking for more, where can they connect with you?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking. Yes. So I'm on Instagram. Everything is Grit and Tenacity Consulting. So on Instagram, it's Grit and Tenacity Consulting. You can email me, gritandtenacityconsulting@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, gritandtenacityconsulting.com. I actually am also, I don't know the time of this airing, but I am launching a 5-day Jumpstart Your Sales Accelerator program.
Ooh, exciting.
I know. And that actually, you can get registered for it now. So you can go to my website and it'll be there. And it's just 5 days of honestly like email trainings, quick, easy email trainings in your inbox with like actionable things for you to do. And then you get me in your back pocket. So for 5 days, I will help you tweak the things, reword the things, do all the things. It's really awesome. And then I do offer as a bonus my live signature training, which is how to really connect what you're selling to why people need it. So that actually goes live. I think it's April 14th. So, but you can get registered now.
So exciting. Yeah. So much value in there. And yeah, I'm sure we can just learn so much from you. So thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Super impactful. And yeah, we will link all the stuff below.
Yay. Thank you so much, Amanda. You're amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you'd like to continue this conversation, connect with me on Instagram and say hello. You can find me at AmandaRiffy_coaching. In the meantime, if you know you are ready to step into the next incredible version of you and want to completely accelerate your personal and professional growth, let's work together. I offer one-on-one private coaching as well as workshops and in-person events. There's really something for everyone. To learn more, visit my website at acrprofessionalcoaching.com or send me a DM on Instagram and start a conversation. And don't worry, I truly want all of us to succeed. So I promise I will never steer you wrong. Let's create a career and life you love. Chat with you again soon.